Okay, thank you for bearing with me. We're going to have a presentation today about the organization that I represent, which is called the Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute. The reason I'm all the way out here in Whiting is because actually the serving director of our institute lives in Village 4 for the last 30 years. I found him at the nonprofit, which helped give me a lot of purpose and direction in life. And I ended up becoming his assistant here in Village 4 around 2018. So recently we actually started a program here doing some deep breathing and mantra meditation. So I'm giving some context on our program. That's why I'm here today. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
So the Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute is the mission. We are a 501c3 organization, a charitable nonprofit organization located in Princeton. Our mission is to promote a more compassionate attitude towards the environment and to nurture the development of the spiritual dimension of life in education, science, and society. So we try to promote values and educational programs that are helping people to reach into the most deepest parts of themselves, that help them to not be so distracted by what's going on around them, but rather they have some more fulfillment with who they are as an individual, and they're more responding in a mindful way to the environment rather than being getting anxiety and stress from the environment. So this is our serving director. His name is B. Madhavapuri, Bhakti Madhavapuri Maharaj, or Michael Marchetti. Some may know him as Michael Marchetti. And he actually, he's a scientist. He's a retired scientist who found these problems, these materialistic problems in science, that they did not want to acknowledge consciousness in the role of observing nature. But his field of quantum chemistry made him acknowledge that, and the work he was doing made him acknowledge that. So he wanted more answers. He wasn't getting the answers from the science he was practicing. So he turned to yoga, to Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion. So before moving on to more about that, I have a quote here from Albert Einstein, who interestingly is also from Princeton, New Jersey. Albert Einstein said, "All religions, arts, and sciences are branches of the same tree. All these aspirations are directed toward ennobling man's life, lifting it from the sphere of mere physical existence, and leading the individual towards freedom." So the work of the nonprofit, the educational programs that we have, which I'll show you in a bit, they're at the intersection of science, philosophy, and religion. So it's a very interdisciplinary institute that we have. And also the community programs that we put on, such as the one we have here, are also contextualized in that. So the Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute continues the work that Dr. B. Madhavapuri has been dedicated to for over 50 years. Since 1974, the early 1970s, he's been doing this kind of work, having conferences and talking at universities and other public places, publishing about these kind of ideas since the early 1970s. Informed by the history and philosophy of science, Servitor scholars from the BVISCS address questions concerning the origin, purpose, and evolution of matter, life, consciousness, and self through the lens of organic holism. So when we say organic holism, that's basically what we're calling this synthesis of Western and Eastern knowledge at the intersection of science, philosophy, and religion. The photos we have up here are from the early days of Dr. Puri's work. He lived in India for 10 years, and on the left you'll see Nobel laureate George Wald. He received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, I believe in the 1950s, for his work on the eye, what we call vitamin A his work. Dr. Wall became influenced by the work of Dr. Puri in the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Previously, he was a materialistic scientist who thought that life and consciousness are products of matter. But after attending some of the programs and speaking with Dr. Puri, George Wald came to consider that consciousness is actually fundamental to matter, that our awareness influences how we perceive nature before we even observe it, right? Anything we say about the environment, about nature, is filtered through our consciousness, is filtered through the predispositions, the biases that we already have. And so George Wald became influenced by this, and the last publications of his lifetime were about this topic. And so these are some photos. The middle photo is actually George Wald participating in the mantra meditation, and the person in front of him is our servant director, Dr. Puri. So that's the kind of program we have here as well. The scientist is also engaged in those activities. And the image all the way to the right is of them walking in front of the Bhaktivedanta Institute in Mumbai, India, in the early 80s or late 70s. So we strive to foster cultural and scientific progress beyond materialistic values and medical/technological advancement. Humans live longer and have fancier gadgets, yet suffer worldwide from an environmental and mental health crisis. We don't know how to harmonize with our surroundings, and our minds have grown uneasy. The educational and community programs of the BVISCS are intended to nurture spiritual progress beyond this materialistic impasse. So now we'll get into the actual educational programs that the Institute does before moving on to the community programs, which is more relevant to everybody here. The image that we have on this slide is from the annual conference series. The Institute puts on an annual conference called Science and Scientists. Basically, Science and Scientist means science. The scientist can explain science, but can science really explain the scientist? I mean, can science really explain this conscious entity that was living and having all these feelings and is fulfilled or unfulfilled, and is looking for that fulfillment in ways that either are or are not satisfying that need? Can science really explain that individual, or do we have to move beyond the current materialistic limitations of that? And so this image is from 2019. We had the conference at Rutgers University that year. That was the first year that I attended the conference. So here's some of our educational programs. The Science and Sciences Conference Series, which I just mentioned, the top rows of some of the proceedings that we've had from the conference, which gives some summary of the different presentations. It's available freely online. A lot of our publications are freely accessible online. I put some QR codes on the screen at the end in case anyone wants to, to capture it with their phone and read more about the publications later on. Last year's conference is the middle flyer. I know it's not so clear, but basically, this is just to show that the programs that we're holding are in dialogue with pretty serious scientists and biologists, especially. So people are taking these questions about life and consciousness and how they're not reducible to matter. Scientists are taking them seriously in today's world. Although when Dr. Puri started in the 70s and 80s, these questions and kind of discussions were frowned upon greatly. But today, there's a lot more open-minded environment, even on the professional level, and these conversations are actually very important and a part of the discourse, the academic discourse these days. The bottom pictures show our Science of Life Club at Stockton University, which is about 40 minutes south from here in Galloway, New Jersey. So similarly, we're engaged with students about these kind of discussions, and also the professors. On the bottom left is a flyer from our faculty panel discussion just past May, at the end of the spring 2024 semester, 2025 semester. This was new to the faculty at Stockton, actually. This is the first time that kind of dialogue was held here. So we're happy to be able to facilitate these kind of discussions, even to folks who aren't used to participating in them. The bottom right picture is just the professors and myself having some discussion. So the community programs that we hold, they're both in person and online. And this is getting more to what might be relevant for everybody in this room today. Online, Dr. Pori, who lives here in White, like I said, he has online discussions on Saturday mornings where we discuss Bhagavad Gita, for instance, or any kind of spiritual topic about what is the self, what is the self fulfilled by, how can we find that kind of fulfillment. We talk about those topics on Saturday mornings online with Dr. Porter. And then in person, we have monthly programs in person in Princeton and now here in Whiting. We do mantra meditation and we distribute sanctified vegetarian meals throughout Mercer County. That's not something we started here yet, but if there's interest, that would be fine. So we have some photos of that here. The mantra meditation is the bottom left photo, and the meal distribution is the bottom right, 2 photos. So here are some photos from our program here in Harmony Hall. We have these programs every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. We start with deep breathing. We're going to do a little demonstration of that as we close this presentation today, for those who are interested in practicing. If you're not interested, feel free to just listen or sit there. So we're grateful to Linda, who's helped us conduct this program for the last couple of months now, and for the support from Crestwood Village 2. They even put an announcement on the board, that's the top left image, and the August edition of the Village Voice, the newsletter for CV2, they put a little description of the event, which I'll read on the next slide. And so this is just giving some space for those who are finding day-to-day life and getting some anxiety and stress and not having an outlet to cope with that. For those who have some tendency for spiritual seeking or to discuss topics like that, we just try to have a little space every Thursday morning for people to come together and use it how they want. After the program, we always leave time for discussion. So this is a description of the program itself. Calm the body, expand the mind, and awaken spirit through a mantra meditation with Krishna Keshav Das. That's myself. If I didn't introduce myself, I apologize. Mantra meditation is an aspect of yoga that supports becoming the best version of ourselves. We will start with deep breathing to allow distracting thoughts to dissipate. Then by chanting Om, we'll center ourselves in the present moment. The program culminates in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which integrates body, mind, and spirit by aligning us with universal truth. When chanted with love and humility, meditating on this transcendental sound vibration promotes respect, interconnectedness, and wholeness, nurturing a state of awareness based on mutual respect, compassion, and gratitude. Participants can just listen or chant along with the facilitator. If you'd like to sit on the yoga mat, please bring one. Otherwise, chairs are provided. So now before we move on to the demonstration of the deep breathing, I just have some links here that you're welcome to either take a screenshot of now or after the presentation. You're free to take a screenshot if you're interested. The first link is to the Science of Spirit blog, which contains summaries of presentations from conferences and universities, articles on life and consciousness, and other content focused on an academic approach to spiritual development. The second on the top is a link to the Awakening Self blog, which details some of my personal experiences from my ongoing path of self-discovery. And the bottom link leads to books, research articles, peer-reviewed papers, Bhaktivedanta Institute bulletins, and technical papers from Dr. Puri when he was a working scientist. So again, you're free to approach me later if you'd like to access any of these. So that concludes our little presentation for this morning. I hope you got something from it. And now before we close, we'll just practice a little of this deep breathing, and maybe you'll get something from it, maybe you won't. But it's good to have tools beyond medication to cope with stress and anxiety that we face in day-to-day life. So hopefully this will help in some way with that. So when we start our deep breathing, we always like to close our eyes and start by just observing the rhythm of our breathing as it is without trying to interfere with it. This starts to pull our awareness inward rather than being absorbed in what's going on around us, and helps us to start focusing on what's going on internally. Maybe our breathing is shallow, maybe it's not consistent. That's okay. The point isn't to judge that, it's just to become aware of what our natural rhythm is. And then slowly we start to consciously inhale through the nose, feel our lungs expand with that air, and then we expand the belly, the diaphragm, to pull the breath deeper before deflating the diaphragm and exhaling back through our nose if possible. So as we continue to do the breathing, we inhale and exhale through our nose. And we try to follow the path of the breath with our mind as a means to start cultivating some meditative practice. Meditation just means engaging the mind on something particular. So, focusing on the path of the breathing as we inhale through our nose, feeling our lungs inflate with air, and expanding the belly to pull the breath deeper before exhaling back through the nose. As we continue to breathe like this at our own pace, we can use each exhale as an opportunity to release tension in the body. Every time we exhale through the nose, we can feel our facial muscles relax, the space in between our eyebrows. Instead of staying scrunched up, we release that tension, they smooth out. We feel our facial muscles drop instead of being clenched. Maybe our jaw relaxes, feeling our shoulders drop a little bit, roll back. Every time you exhale, you have the opportunity to relieve that tension in the body. So continuing to inhale like this, inhaling through the nose, expanding the belly, trying to expand it a little wider each time. We find that the more we expand the belly during the breath, the more tension in the body we relieve when we exhale. So as we exhale back through the nose, feeling the belly withdraw and the lungs empty of air, feeling the breath pass through the passage of our nose, we're feeling our neck relax, our arms relax, our chest, our legs. So in this way, you can practice deep breathing anytime you feel some anxiety during your day. Just take a pause and withdraw from the surroundings, and remind yourself, practice this self-determination rather than being determined by the environment and getting angry because stuff going on around you is not happening the way you want it to. Rather, withdraw from that and focus on the self. And this practice, when we add mantra meditation to it as we're doing the program, it can really bring us deeper in that we recognize that who we are as a soul is more subtle than the body and the mind. The soul is the observer, right? We can observe tension in our body and relax. The body is an object of observation for who we are as a soul. Similarly, the mind. We can recognize when we're getting anxious, getting depressed, getting anything. We can recognize those emotions. We can recognize the patterns of our mind and try to, edit that. So the fact that the mind is an object of our observation means there's something more subtle and fundamental in the mind, which is doing that observation. So that's what we mean by the soul. Right? So the body and mind are objects of the soul. Doing this deep breathing, doing the mantra meditation, they help bring our awareness to that more subtle level of our existence and help us relate to that so we can start living from that place more. This is the kind of activity that we do on Thursday mornings here in Harmony Hall at 9 a.m. If you're interested in joining, please feel free to come. It's a free program. We just started putting some flyers up to remind you if you need a reminder. And again, I'll be here for a couple of minutes after if anyone wants to have any further discussion. Thank you for the time. Namaste.
I just want to tell you my experience. Okay. I reach everything with an open mind. I'm so busy. My life is so busy. There's so many nonsense stuff that's going around in this world. So when I became in contact with Krishna, I really didn't know what to expect. But I said, you know what? Let me just sit with the man and let's see what he has to offer. And I just thought that, especially being senior, okay, what kind of worries do we have? Financial and worries about health, other things. And I'm so busy that I don't have, no, I couldn't meditate. I didn't know how to meditate. I came to his first class between the deep breathing, and that's just the beginning. And then we go into chanting. Once you start to chant, it clears your mind. And for a lovely 20 minutes or so, you don't think about anything. And you're just calm. And it's just lovely. And I appreciate every Thursday with him. So thank you very much.